Simply spiffing to see you, old chap. Fancy a G&T and a spot of croquet on the lawn. Ask most people what they think about when they hear the word gentleman, and it'll probably be an English aristocrat with a penchant for blazers and an overfondness for ball games. But actually, the gentleman has for centuries been the archetype for what a real man should be. Okay, the word gentle doesn't sound too appealing. A real man should be tough and uncompromising, not gentle and soft. But the word gentle originally comes from the Latin gens, pronounced with a hard G, meaning a noble, prestigious family. So, being a gentleman really means being a high-quality man, one everyone else in society looks up to, including women, of course. And you don't have to be born to a noble family to be a gentleman. Being a gentleman is easy, honestly. But before we find out how you can become a gentleman, or rather the kind of man every guy aspires to be, we need to look at what a gentleman actually is. To find out, let's go back to the Middle Ages in Europe, a time of wandering minstrels, damsels in distress, and heroic knights who could swash and buckle their way through any and every type of danger. Now, the Middle Ages were a brutal time. War with your neighboring country was never far around the corner, and if you wanted to be considered a real man, you'd better know how to fight, or you wouldn't keep your lady for long, or your life for that matter. But in the backdrop of all of this carnage, modern nation-states as we know them today, including England, France, and Spain, were being formed. And to build a country, you can't have every man for himself, riding roughshod over the needs and desires of others. You needed laws and men who honored and obeyed those laws. And so, the concept of the gentleman was born. A tough, warlike man who could fight to the death at the drop of a hat, but also one who was gentle and civilized, able and willing to help others and show respect to king, country, and yep, the ladies. In other words, to be a real man meant to tread a fine line between the hard and the soft, the individualistic and the communal, the animalistic and the humane. But somewhere along the line, we lost that sense of balance. The concept of the gentleman got thrown out the window, and everything became polarized. Men have become either overly manly, seeking success at any cost and subjugating those around them, or overly feminine, talking about their feelings all the time, eschewing competition, and even going to the lengths of actually becoming women. Seems like men nowadays can't win. Be too manly and risk getting called a chauvinistic pig who disrespects women. Be too nice and you might get ridiculed as a beta and never get a date. Yeah, women might say they like a tender, caring man, but most of the time they're dating the quarterbacks of the football team. We need a reset. We need to return to the archetype of the gentleman, a man who strives for success and accomplishment, but also takes others' needs and feelings into consideration. Sound impossible? Not really. It's totally natural. As Jordan Peterson, famed Canadian psychologist and self-help guru, points out, this kind of strong but caring male is the cornerstone of many hierarchies in nature. He uses the example of chimpanzees. Yes, it's possible for a chimpanzee to become the leader of the pack through sheer violence and subjugation of the other males. However, such chimp leaders don't last long. They're eventually deposed in the most brutal way. The chimpanzee leaders who stay at the top of the hierarchy longest are those who cooperate with the other males and treat them with respect. The same is true for hierarchies in the human world. CEOs of large corporations who treat their employees like crap rarely succeed over the long term, whereas those who practice a certain degree of humility fare much better. Elon Musk, CEO of Tesla and the richest man in the world, regularly speaks to operators on the factory floor to get their perspectives. Mark Cuban, tech billionaire and owner of the Dallas Mavericks, will spend hours after games talking to the fans. Even Steve Jobs, often touted as the ultimate asshole CEO, would give his employees random bonuses if they were in a tough financial spot. Needless to say, these guys are or were incredibly driven and focused on success, but they know that they need the loyalty and even the love of their employees to truly create a successful business. This is what a real leader is. Someone who aims for the stars, but isn't too focused on the stars to not pay attention to those around them. In other words, they follow the archetype of the gentleman. So, are you ready to become that same kind of gentleman? The kind of man who gives as much back to society as he takes for himself? Who inspires and helps others while enriching himself? As we said, It's all about balance. You need to find the balance between the tough and the soft, the individualistic and the communal. So, the first step is to make a self-appraisal. Which side of you is the least developed at the moment? If you're softer, more focused on others' needs than your own, not so capable of standing up as a strong, powerful man, then you need to work on the harder masculine side of yourself. Take up a martial art, lift weights, get into more traditionally manly pursuits like sports or motor cars. Be a bit more assertive in your school or work life. I know it might sound stereotypical, but it's stereotypical for a reason. These are all things that require power, energy, and a desire to win to take part in key hard masculine traits. But what about the softer masculine side? Don't worry, we're not going to recommend getting involved in activities like knitting or putting on makeup. The softer masculine side is all about caring for others, thinking about their needs as equal to your own, and then providing the required help. To be able to do it effectively, you first have to understand people effectively. There's no point in jumping in headfirst trying to help people if it's not the kind of help they need or want. You can help a little old lady cross the street, but if she doesn't want to go in that direction, you're not helping anyone. And to truly understand others, you have to learn how to listen. I mean really listen. A lot of the time when people are having conversations with each other, they're just waiting for the other person to finish talking so they can have their say. It's more like a sword fight than real communication, blocking what the other person is saying until it's your own turn to fight back. This can never lead you to understand the other better. All you're doing is taking what the other person is saying and neatly fitting it into your already established view of things. If you want to widen your perspective, which means understanding how others view the world, you need to practice a more active style of listening. Give your whole attention to what they're saying. Dampen down the running commentary and assumptions that arise as they're talking. Imagine that what they're talking about, whether it's what they did on the weekend or what issue they're struggling with, is actually happening to you. Put yourself in their shoes so that the information they're sharing with you affects you at a deeper level. This kind of listening is the only way to temporarily bring down the divide between you and the other, to the point you almost become one person. Their needs become your needs, their desires yours. Therefore, when they need help, it won't be a matter of being a nice person helping someone out. You'll act to help them just the same as if you're helping yourself. A bit like how a parent views their children. If a kid runs into the road, the parent doesn't even think about running out and rescuing him or her. What's good for the parent and the child are one and the same thing. Active listening is the best method to broaden your circle of concern, to become a man who cares for others, and combined with a converse focus on developing or maintaining your harder masculine traits at the same time, is the best way to become a gentleman, the kind of man who is a boon rather than a burden to society. So there you have it. Being a gentleman is really that easy, honestly. Try it out and let us know your results in the comments. We'd love to hear how you get on. And we'd love to know what topic you'd like us to do for the next video. In the meantime, hit the like button and subscribe for more piece of cake ways to take control of your life.